Hello and welcome to all my Gulf students. So today here I am with an ultimate recap of the chapter Ecosystem. This is again a very simple chapter, purely NCERT based you have to do. So here I am going to express all the important concepts of this chapter with the help of your NCERT textbook only, right? So basically let's start without wasting any time. Basically, beta, first of all, you should know what is ecosystem. The name of the chapter itself. So, if you remember the last chapter, organism and population, beta, then ecosystem is a level of hierarchy of ecology where different communities, they interact with each other due to energy flow, productivity, decomposition, nutrient cycling, etc. Or simply you can say that ecosystem is the interaction between the biotic and abiotic components, right? So what you can write over here is ecosystem is basically the interaction between biotic and abiotic components, right? Yes or no? Now there can be two types of ecosystem depending upon their location. One is terrestrial, second is aquatic. So now we are going to discuss the types of ecosystem. First, on the basis of location. So if ecosystem is present in water, like pond ecosystem, river ecosystem, ocean ecosystem, then those all comprises under aquatic ecosystem. On the other hand, the second is terrestrial. So terrestrial means on land, like for example, forest, grassland, etc. Aquatic means in water, right? Similarly, depending upon the human intervention, again we have two types of ecosystem. One, natural, where no human intervention is supposed to be allowed and everything is run naturally by the nature itself. And second is man-made ecosystem or anthropogenic ecosystem, which is actually created by man, managed by man, and everything, whatever is happening in that ecosystem is the outcome of human activities. For example, aquarium, your agricultural field. So they are also types of ecosystem, but they are made by man, run by man, and whatever is the outcome is the outcome of the human activity. Correct? So again, depending upon human intervention, we have how many types of ecosystem? Two types of ecosystem. One, natural. Natural means no human activity is supposed to be allowed. So no human activity is observed. All the natural ecosystem, your aquatic ecosystem, ocean, pond, it's not created by man now. They are all existing naturally. So they are known as natural ecosystem. On the other hand, beta, we have anthropogenic, also known as man-made ecosystem. The ecosystem actually which is created, run by man, and whatever thing is happening inside that ecosystem is the result of human activity. Got my point? So how many types of ecosystem you have seen? First, on the basis of location. So two types on the basis of location, and second is on the basis of human intervention. Correct? Now beta, we are going to discuss about the structural and the functional roles of ecosystem in order to maintain the environment healthy. So first I'm going to tell you the structural aspect of ecosystem, and then we will start with the functional aspect of ecosystem, which is very, very important. So next heading is going to be ecosystem structure. Ecosystem structure mainly comprises of two units. One is species stratification, right? And second is known as species composition. Correct? So how many structural aspects do we have for an ecosystem? Two. Species stratification and species composition. Stratification means vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels in an ecosystem. Like for example, if I talk about forest ecosystem. A forest ecosystem comprises of different groups of plants, some tall called as trees, some middle heighted called as shrubs, and some small heighted called as herbs. So this herbs occupying the first level depending upon the size, then followed by shrubs and then followed by trees represent my species stratification, the distribution of different species occupying different strata on the basis of their height. For example, over here in a given ecosystem is known as species stratification. Correct? Second is species richness or species composition, that how many types and different various types of species are found in a given ecosystem. Correct? So first, if I see what is species stratification means, it is nothing but the vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels. Correct? Yes or no? And then if I talk about species composition, it means species richness or species diversity. The number and the type of species found in a given area is known as species composition, which is one of the structural aspect of an ecosystem. Very, very important. Followed by this, beta, you have to see the ecosystem functional aspects, that how you have to run a healthy ecosystem. So if you want to run a healthy ecosystem, beta, then there are four important functions which should be exhibited by ecosystem very well. The four functions of an ecosystem are: number one is productivity, number two is decomposition, number third is energy flow, and fourth is nutrient cycling. So how many functions do we have for an ecosystem? Four. What are those? First of all, production. See, ecosystem is mainly made up of species, right? And for any species to survive, what do you need? You need food. That means first of all, plants should perform photosynthesis. They should prepare glucose. So the rate of biomass produced by the plant is known as productivity. Now that glucose is only transferred from one trophic level to another with the help of prey-predator relationship, and that is how the species survive. So productivity is very important. Till the time rate of biomass production is not high in an ecosystem, we cannot survive. Different species cannot survive. Second, decomposition. Now you know, beta, every organism on this earth is mortal. That means every day one has to die. Now imagine plants and animals and humans are dying every day, but if their body is not getting decomposed, if their body is not getting converted from organic to inorganic nutrients and not getting back mixed with the soil, then everywhere around you, you will just find dead bodies only. So decomposition is again a very, very important process or function of an ecosystem to maintain healthy, cleaner ecosystem. Yes or no? Third, flow of energy. Now imagine plants have produced, the rate of biomass production by plant is high, but nobody is there to eat the plant. There are no herbivores, and carnivores are simply waiting for herbivores. So imagine plants have prepared food, but there is no one to eat them. So how the energy will be flowing from one trophic level to another? So for this prey-predator relationship is very, very important to maintain healthy energy flow, so that whatever biomass is produced by plants can be transported to animal kingdom as well. So to maintain a healthy ecosystem, rate of biomass production is very important. Then after then after the death of plant and animal, their remains should mix in the soil. That means decomposition is very important. Flow of energy from one trophic level to another trophic level is also a very important aspect. And fourth is nutrient cycling. You know, plants, beta, they absorb nutrients from the soil and then they prepare their food. Correct? Now, till the time you don't return those nutrients back to the soil, that means if you don't return the nutrients to the reservoir, so one day reservoir will become empty. And if reservoir becomes empty, then how the next round of plants are going to grow? So nutrient cycling is very important. All the nutrients, they should return back to their reservoir so that the cycle continues. It's simply like you are storing money in the bank and one day you are taking out all the money. So if you're only taking out and not recycling back the money in the bank, your bank will become empty and one day there will be nothing left to take out. Yes or no? So in order to maintain the flow of money, you should deposit also and withdraw also from the bank. Simply withdrawing and not depositing, bank will become empty. Or simply depositing. So bank people will say that no, you are doing some bad work because of which you are only earning and you're not withdrawing. So in order to maintain a healthy cycle, withdrawal and deposition both is necessary, and this withdrawal and deposition is known as nutrient cycling. Correct? Have you all understood? So how many ecosystem functions do we have to study in this chapter? 4. So first let's start with productivity. Now I have taken the screenshot of NCERT. Here one by one I am going to teach you each and every point. So listen to me very carefully. First of all, there is a very important term called primary production. What do you mean by primary production, beta? It is the amount of biomass produced by the producers over a given period of time at a given area. Yes or no? Its unit is kg per meter square if it in terms of weight, or kilocalories per meter square if it in terms of energy. Simply, primary production is the total amount of biomass produced. So what is primary production? Beta, total amount of biomass produced by the green plant. So see, there's always sun. So sun is very, very important for production because sun is the ultimate source of light which is trapped by the green plants in order to produce food. Correct? Yes or no? So basic requirement of any ecosystem. Primary production is defined as the amount of biomass or matter produced per unit area over a given period of time. Now, here you have not mentioned that in how much time you are calculating the production. So when time is also specified, then that becomes productivity. So after this, next definition is of productivity, the rate of biomass production. So what is productivity? Primary production, you are not mentioning time. You are just saying over a given period of time. But when it comes to primary productivity, it is production per unit time. Per unit time means per unit area, per unit year. So यहाँ time क्या होगा? Time means year. Got my point? Yes or no? Okay, so therefore the unit will change. How? It will change from gram per meter square per year you will mention. See, make it K, from kg just make it gram. So it's gram per meter square, but here you have not mentioned the time. So now you have to mention the time also with respect to the change in the definition portion. Right? Now beta, primary productivity is further divided into two, as gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. Gross means total production by the plant, correct? Now whatever total biomass is produced by the plant, is it all that 100% available to the herbivores? No. Some amount of biomass, some amount of glucose will be consumed by the plants also na, for their benefits, for their activity, which is actually their equivalent to their respiration loss. So gross means total. Now whatever is left for the second trophic level organism is gross minus respiratory loss, which is equivalent to net primary productivity. So if plant has produced GPP, but then what is available for the herbivore? It is NPP. Now herbivores will feed on the plant, will get that NPP, will get that net primary productivity. Now they will also show some respiration loss. That means they will also consume some part of the glucose. So now NPP minus their own respiration loss will give you secondary productivity. This is the amount of biomass left for the next organism present at higher trophic level, which is going to predate on the herbivore. So this is how, if plant is producing X amount, then that same X amount is not going to the herbivore. Some is lost. Then whatever is going to the herbivore, everything is not available to the carnivore. Again, some amount is lost. Yes or no? And here shows the flow of energy. So read it, everyone. Now, it can be divided into GPP and NPP. GPP is actually the total biomass produced during photosynthesis, whereas some amount is utilized by plants in the form of their respiration. So GPP minus R is NPP. NPP is the available biomass for the consumers, which is actually your herbivores, correct? Then once they feed on it, then they are also going to use some amount. Now whatever is left is known as secondary productivity. Yes or no? Clear to everyone what is NPP and GPP? Good. Now if I move further beta, the total primary productivity of annual is 170 billion tons, which can be divided into two. Aquatic ecosystem is almost producing 55 billion ton, whereas terrestrial ecosystem is almost producing 115 billion tons. So this data you have to remember, which is very clearly given over here. So primary productivity, the annual net is 170 billion ton, out of which 55 billion tons is produced by oceans and 115 billion tons are produced by land ecosystem. Correct? Got my point? What is productivity? Very good. Now moving towards the second important functional aspect of an ecosystem is decomposition. Decomposition simply means degrading the dead remains of plants and animal into their simplest form, right? Now the dead remains of plants and animal is known as detritus. Got my point? So that your environment can be kept clean. So decomposition is nothing, simply degrading the dead remains of plants and animals. The dead remains, they are referred to as beta detritus into simplest form in order to keep the environment clean. Correct? Now, this decomposition is done with 5 steps. They are, first is fragmentation. Fragmentation is done with the help of some detritivores like earthworm. You know, earthworms are known as friends of farmers. Why? Because earthworms are the detritivores like termites and earthworm. They actually begin the process of decomposition. They are the ones who feed on the dead remains of plant and animals and start degrading that complex organic substance into simple organic substance. Now earthworms, they are going to eat the dead bodies. Internal digestion will take place. Some of the energy will be utilized by them, and some jo ganda fecal matter rahega, that will come out of the earthworm, right? Now that fecal matter coming out from the body of earthworm is actually simple organic substance. Yes or no? So that is fragmentation. Once fragmentation is done, then from those simple organic substance, some may be soluble component, some may be insoluble. So the soluble components from that simple organic matter is going to percolate down into the deeper layers and will become unavailable. So the second step, beta, is known as leaching, right? Now whatever remains is there on the surface, that simple organic substance which are insoluble, which do not percolate down, they undergo further degradation. So third step is catabolism, and it is done with the help of decomposers like bacteria and fungi. So this is done with the help of beta detritivores, correct? Whereas catabolism is done with the help of decomposers like bacteria and fungi. Detritivores were showing internal digestion. Catabolism mein decomposers are going to release the digestive enzyme outside to further degrade the simple organic substance into their simplest inorganic form. And by secreting the digestive enzymes outside, they are going to digest the material, and whatever energy they will get, they will absorb, and whatever is left is actually simple inorganic elements which get mixed with the soil. So catabolism is of further two steps, which is humification. So beta, meanwhile decomposers are doing their job of degrading the simple organic into simple inorganic. So there's an intermediate stage where a dark colored, colloidal, amorphous substance produced, highly rich in nutrient, which is called as humus. So formation of humus is known as humification, right? And then humification is just an intermediate phase of complete degradation from simple organic to simple inorganic. And once complete simple inorganic materials are produced, so last step is then known as mineralization. क्या कहते हैं last step को? It is known as mineralization, right? Chalo, let's read what your textbook has to say so that things become more clear. Basically, beta, you must have heard about the earthworms, which are called as the farmer's friend. This is so because they help in the early breakdown of complex organic matter as well as loosening of the soil, correct? Decomposers break down further complex organic matter into inorganic substance, as this process is known as decomposition. The dead remains whose decomposition has to take place is known as detritus, which is the raw material for the decomposition. It is divided into 5 steps, I told you: fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humification, and mineralization. Starting with first step. So detritivores like earthworms, they break the detritus into smaller particle. So this is known as fragmentation. Then leaching occurs, where soluble inorganic nutrients go down into the soil and they become unavailable. Some which are left, they undergo further degradation, which is catabolism, with the help of bacteria and fungi, releasing the digestive enzymes to produce simpler inorganic substance, correct? Meanwhile, catabolism is taking place. There is the formation of humus, which is a dark colored amorphous substance, highly resistant to microbial actions and undergoes decomposition at a very extremely slow rate. And at last, once the complete decomposition is done, we obtain the minerals. Yes or no? Have you all people understood what is decomposition? It is very, very important process. Why? Because it maintains your ecosystem healthy. If there is no decomposition, then detritus will be left on the earth and your survival on earth will become very hectic. Got my point? Chalo. Next. Now, next is beta energy flow. So if I talk about energy flow, this is the third and the very important functional aspect of an ecosystem, which is actually related to productivity itself. You all know that beta sun is the ultimate source of energy. Correct? Sun is the ultimate source of energy which is utilized by the plants in order to produce food. So suppose this is my sun which is giving its 100% input, out of which 2 to 10% or rather write 1 to 5% of total sunlight is absorbed by my plants in order to perform photosynthesis and produce biomass. Correct? Now, whatever biomass they have produced is known as gross primary productivity. Right? Now, this gross primary productivity, say respiratory loss, you can subtract. What will be left? Net primary productivity. And now, this is going to be fed by, grasses are the producers. Then they are going to be fed by herbivores, who are actually known as primary consumers. And then begins your flow of energy. Then these herbivores are fed by carnivores, who are also known as secondary consumers. Correct? Yes or no? So here begins the flow of energy from one trophic. Now this is one trophic level, the base, second trophic level, third trophic level, fourth, again another carnivore, that is tertiary consumer. Like this, here goes the flow of energy. So food is produced by the producer, then producer is fed by some other consumer, then that consumer is fed by some other consumer. Like this, food is transferred from one trophic level to another in a unidirectional manner. Have you ever seen a grass killing a goat or a goat killing a lion? No, because this flow of energy is always unidirectional from consumer to producer. It's never from producer to consumer. Sun is the ultimate source of energy. And now the simple flow of energy which you can see from producer to primary consumer to secondary consumer to tertiary consumer is simply known as food chain. क्या कहेंगे इसको? This is simply known as food chain. Correct? Now, if one trophic level at a time is occupied by one organism only, then that is simple food chain. However, in nature, there is no concept of simple food chain. Rather, different food chains, they club with each other to form a complex web-like structure called as food web, where one organism can occupy more than one trophic level. Got my point? It is very clearly said that energy flow follows both the laws of thermodynamics, first law as well as second law. First law says that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can only be transferred from one form to another. तो यहाँ पे यही हो रहा है कि नहीं? Sun is the ultimate source of energy, correct? Which is doing what? Which is simply light energy is converted into chemical form. Then that chemical form is transferred to another organism, and once they will die, so they will be fed by the decomposers, and again the nutrients will return back to the soil. So in short, we are simply transferring the form of energy, but we are neither creating it nor destroying it, right? Second law says that energy is transferred in dispersed form, not in complex form, correct? So why? See beta, whenever an organism is feeding on some other organism, so it's not the food which is stored inside the body is entering. It is actually ATP which the consumer is getting from the producer. So ATP is the dispersed form of energy, whereas food is the concentrated form of energy. So here flow of energy follows both the laws of thermodynamics, first law as well as second law. Correct? Chalo, read it what NCERT has to say. Except for the deep sea ocean, sun is the only source of energy, right? Now, incident solar radiation, say only 50% of the light is capable of utilization, even less than 50%, which is known as photosynthetically active region, that is only a visible spectrum. Correct? Yes or no? A visible spectrum cut, I have written 1 to 5% of total sunlight, or you can also mention it like this, 2 to 10% of power. Right? Now this is available for the plants to perform photosynthesis and produce the biomass. Correct? Now whatever food are produced by producers, now that is transferred unidirectionally from the producer to the consumer. I already told you this point. Ecosystem follows both the laws of thermodynamics, first as well as second. They need a constant supply of energy to synthesize the molecules they require to counteract the universal tendency towards increasing disorderliness. The green plant in the ecosystem are called as producers. In terrestrial ecosystem, major producers are herbaceous and woody plant, but in aquatic ecosystem, they are phytoplanktons, algae and higher plants. Very easy. Then the concept of food chain is given, but in nature, you know, there is no concept of simple food chain. Rather, complex food web exists in our nature. So that thing is also given. Then plants are then fed by consumers, which are also known as heterotrophs. And like this, flow of energy takes place unidirectionally, beta, from one organism to another, occupying different trophic level. Energy flow follows both the laws of thermodynamics. This is also very important for you to remember. Correct? Yes or no? Chalo. Now beta, moving towards the fourth and the last aspect of ecosystem function, which is nutrient cycle. If you have understood decomposition, if you have understood energy flow, then automatically I consider that you have understood nutrient cycling also. Why? Because it is very, very easy. Flow of nutrient from the reservoir back to the reservoir is known as nutrient cycling. For example, nitrogen, phosphorus, they were absorbed by the roots from the soil and now they are incorporated in the plant body. Now that nitrogen, phosphorus wants to return back to the soil. So how is it possible? When that plant will die, its body will be decomposed with the help of detritivores and decomposers, and then they will convert, they will perform mineralization, and then again nitrogen, phosphorus will be returned back to the soil so that next set of plants can absorb it and utilize it, right? So this flow of nutrient is known as nutrient cycle. Yes or no? Nutrient cycles are also known as biogeodes. So the other name, that nutrient cycling is also known as biogeochemical cycle. So moving towards the next point, that is nutrient cycling, right? So beta, nutrient cycling, what is nutrient cycling? It is simply the flow of nutrients. Simply the flow of nutrient between biotic and abiotic components, full stop. It is beta also known as biogeochemical cycle, which can be of two types depending upon the nature of reservoir. So depending upon the nature of reservoir, beta, we basically have how many types of nutrient cycles? Two. One are sedimentary and second are gaseous cycle. Gaseous cycle means whose reservoir is in the atmosphere. Sedimentary cycle means whose reservoir is in the rock. So here reservoir means source from where that nutrient is extracted or replenished. So when reservoir is soil, and here where reservoir is atmosphere, correct? For gaseous cycle we have example like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. For sedimentary you have like for example sulfur cycle, phosphorus cycle, etc. Got my point? So here it is simply written. If you can see, there are two types of nutrient cycles, gaseous and sedimentary. They are also known as biogeochemical cycle. The movement of nutrient element through the various components of ecosystem, and you know there are two major components of ecosystem. One, biotic, second, abiotic. So between these only nutrients keep on cycling. The abiotic components are giving the nutrients to the biotic component, they're utilizing it. When biotic components, they die, their body decompose, and whatever nutrients are there in their body during decomposition, they are released in the form of minerals back to their reservoir. So it's like deposition, utilization taking place hand in hand. So this chakra, this cycle is known as nutrient cycle. Clear? So beta, this chapter is very easy. The details of this chapter are being taught to you in the class, where I have given you each and every minute details of this chapter, right? Then apart from this, if you notice, then in this chapter you just have to discuss about the structural aspect of an ecosystem and functional aspect of an ecosystem. So there are two structural aspects. I hope you have understood: stratification and composition. Plus there are four functional aspects: productivity, that is rate of biomass production, then decomposition for cleaning the environment, very important. Third, energy flow. So whatever biomass is produced, is it getting transferred and is it getting received by every organism? Yes. The responsibilities of energy flow. And last is nutrient cycling. Now beta, if your ecosystem is performing all the four functions very well, then that ecosystem is known as healthiest ecosystem, and the rate of survival is also very high. Correct? Got my point, everyone? Yes or no? So cool enough. So basically your homework will be read and revise the chapter from your textbook, right? Yes or no? So chalo bhai, that's it for today. I hope you all have understood this chapter in detail. All the minute details we have covered while I'm teaching in the class, and this is just an ultimate recap where I'm introducing all the terminologies in front of you so that you are able to recall that what we have done in the class, and it becomes your duty to go and read from your textbook and go and read your notes which you have written in class and see what you have understood, what you have not. If you haven't understood some of the other concepts, write it in the comment section. Ma'am would love to help you all to solve all your doubts. Thank you for watching me. See you in the next lecture. Till then, bye-bye everyone. Take care.